In this video, I reveal how this popular YouTuber is trying to hide her dark neo-Nazi past. I want to talk to you about Philosophicat, a popular YouTuber who makes spiritual and philosophical videos. Her content's been watched hundreds of thousands of times, and on the surface, she seems well-intentioned and harmless. Let me show you what I mean.
Because we're so often valued purely for how we look, and in many cases, that is a value we attach to ourselves more than one put on us by the people in our lives. How often do we allow our self-esteem to be influenced by what we see in the mirror?
But after watching a few of her videos, I began sensing something more sinister. She had a very subtle scent of the far right. The first red flag I noticed was her devotion to Julius Evola, an Italian philosopher popular amongst the alt-right. It's no overstatement to say that Evola is fascism's preeminent philosopher. He was close to both Himmler and Mussolini. To get a sense of Evola's anti-Semitism, I'll read a little extract from a paper he wrote titled 3 Aspects of the Jewish Problem. There is a Jewish practice of lies, cunning, hypocrisy, exploitation, a skillfulness in gradually climbing into all the key positions. Predictably, this extreme hatred has led to the alt-right worshipping this self-declared super fascist. But back to Philosophicat. The second red flag I noticed was that she's part of a 2-man band called Uberfolk. Here, have a listen to one of their songs. That actually seems wholesome. I could imagine my mum listening to it with a nice cup of Darjeeling tea. But again, all is not as it seems. Uberfolk is a 2-man band, Kat Weiss and George Birdie. Kat is obviously Philosophicat, but who's George Birdie? Well, George's other band is Rahowa, which stands for Racial Holy War. And he's one of the most influential neo-Nazis of all time. This is one of their songs. As anti-Semitic as that was, it's actually one of their milder tracks. The third red flag I noticed was that despite presenting her channel as a self-help, philosophical, mystical, pro-woman space, she repeatedly appears on alt-right channels.
Well, for you, what are the most important issues of our time?
Well, first and foremost, obviously the continuation of our race. I don't see any point in addressing any other issue until that one's taken care of.
There are a lot of damaged people on the right as well.
Well, and a lot of depressed people, and not without good reason, because once you come to the right, it's because you've often realized how terrible the modern world is.
Clearly there's something more sinister at play here. So I launched an investigation to see who she was, and what I uncovered will shock you. I quickly discovered that Kat Weiss was a pseudonym, and whoever this woman was, she'd been really careful not to reveal her true identity. But not careful enough. I can reveal that she's actually called Janelle Bode, a 36-year-old living in Melbourne, Australia. Now, Janelle has been on quite a journey. She grew up in a sleepy town called Iota in Minnesota, and she had a typical Catholic upbringing in an ordinary white-collar home. To the surprise of her parents, at just 18, she ran off to Poland to get married, but the marriage was short-lived. Next, she moved to Indiana to study political science, and it was at university that she became radicalized. She began making thousands of posts to the white supremacist website Stormfront. Here's a few examples. Do not fraternize with non-whites just because they don't act like stereotypical non-whites. They are still not white. They do not belong in our countries, and they do not belong in our social circles. Most of my neighbors are Asians, Cambodians, Vietnamese, Hmong, Filipinos. They are third world animals who are no better than blacks. I don't think anyone would have such a problem with Jews if they'd actually come to their power through honest means. However, they didn't. And now that they have power, they are incredibly corrupt. They are dishonest and they exploit others for their own gain. Mr. Irving, that's David Irving, is truly a hero in the fight for liberty and truth. The fresh-faced racist quickly became state chairman of a white supremacist group called the Hoosier Nation, which was the Indiana chapter of the Council of Conservative Citizens. This is the same white supremacist organization that Dylan Roof said inspired him to walk into a church and murder 9 African Americans.
Now, Dylan Roof, the man charged with murdering 9 black people at a Charleston church, said he had reviewed information on the group's website. Well, the president of that group, though, has denied they had any role in the shooting.
So what Dylan Roof learned were facts. Facts that are hard to find because they're essentially taboo in the United States today.
The CFCC website has compared the late pop star Michael Jackson to an ape and has referred to black people as a retrograde species of humanity.
We have absolutely no apology for publishing the facts.
She also launched one of the first online white supremacist bookshops. But it was her association with the notorious Holocaust denier David Irving that catapulted her into the media spotlight. She made headline news after her anti-Semitic hero hired her as his chief assistant.
I came with a reputation as an historian. I had 30 solid books behind me, very widely reviewed and well reviewed by the world's press. So they couldn't dismiss me so easily when I said in the witness box, as I did, that I'd seen no evidence that Adolf Hitler had ordered the gassing or liquidation of the world's Jews, Germany's Jews, Europe's Jews. I picked documents that had been on Hitler's desk, documents of which he was aware. I had a pretty strict criterion I applied, and you get a very different picture then. You get a picture then of Adolf Hitler putting out his hand and protecting the Jews every time there was any risk of any harm being done to them. It's a very unusual picture. And for a long time I was way out alone on a short plank. In my opinion, that Adolf Hitler was not an anti-Semite during the war years. After he came to power, Adolf Hitler was not an anti-Semite, not anti-Jewish. I think the Jews have made a big mistake in trying to sweep it all up into one concept, the Holocaust with a capital H, and market that in the same way they would market headache tablets, just to make money. It has, I think, debased the whole of this vast human tragedy. They should be looking really at other issues. They should be asking themselves, can this happen again? Why did it happen in the first place? Why us? They never ask the why us question, because even posing the why us question is considered to be anti-Semitic, the suggestion that they themselves are partly to blame.
Now, Janelle and David didn't have an ordinary employer-employee relationship. We know this because their emails were hacked and released to WikiLeaks, and they caught the decrepit 71-year-old professing his love for his 23-year-old blonde assistant. He was so infatuated with her that he'd call her his snowdrop and even showered her with red roses. One of her most depraved initiatives was organising tours of Nazi death camps for Holocaust deniers. The group would visit places like Auschwitz so that Irving could deny what had happened while standing on the very soil where millions of Jews had perished. Not content with peddling false history to his far-right friends, Irving's diary records how he would provocatively confront official tour guides, disrupting their group by loudly arguing that the gas chambers were fake. It was on one of these tours that Janelle met her latest husband, Gurwitch H. Bode, and after eloping to Australia, they seemed to disappear from the face of the earth. That is until she recently resurfaced on YouTube as some sort of new age self-help guru. And this is what makes her so dangerous. She isn't a fascist making videos for fascists. She's making them for ordinary people. Check out the comments on her videos. They're from normal people who are oblivious to the fascistic undertones of her content. To put it frankly, she's a wolf in sheep's clothing, making content designed to lure people into the far right. Thanks for watching. Now we need your help to make these videos as we're fully funded by people just like you. So if you want to support our work, head over to our Patreon where a small donation goes a long way, or simply purchase our merch. And if you can't do either, share this video and make sure that you're following us on all of our social media. And if you're on YouTube, make sure that you hit subscribe and hit the notification bell, because if you don't, you won't get notified when we release these videos, as YouTube buries our content. Thanks for watching.